So, have you ever noticed that when you are in a negative mindset, everything seems to go wrong? But when you are aligned and grounded and just happy, opportunities seem to just like flow into you. So, what if your thoughts are not just passive mental chatter, but energetic instructions shaping your reality? So today we're talking about the magnetism of the mindset. So, how energy you hold internally influences what you are experiencing externally. So, thanks for joining me. Welcome to the Gemini Brain, where logic meets intuition and curiosity sparks transformation. I'm your host, Allison, and this is a space for the overthinkers, the curious, and the ones that question everything. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Gemini Brain with your host, Allison Wright. I am an intuitive, I am a healer, I am a spiritual mentor, really here to help others activate and remember their own intuitive gifts and just kind of start living life more in alignment. And this podcast is really my outlet to talk about everything and anything, everything and anything. Okay, come on, Allison, get your words right. It's a tongue twister. Because as a Gemini, I have so many thoughts, very curious, and I just kind of get swung and like swept up into all different topics that really just stimulate my brain. So I'm sharing it with you. So today we are really going to start talking about how our thoughts create our reality. That like energy attracts like energy, and the reason this, kind of came up for me to do an episode on this is I've just had this past week multiple opportunities to have this conversation with different people. So it was kind of this cue from spirit to be like, all right, obviously this is important right now. So let's talk about it. Before I do that, I just had this like genius idea before coming on here. I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull two cards. Let's just have a little bit of fun here because I love to have fun. I love to play around. So I do weekly card readings or weekly intuitive messages on the socials, right? So Instagram, TikTok, all the things every week. But this just feels like I'm just, gonna I pulled two cards. I haven't even read into it. I'm just gonna literally read it from the book, but just for fun. So you just right now decide if card 1 or card 2 is for you, the message is for you, and I will read out what we got. Wait, hold on. What was card 1? Oh, yeah, this one was card 1. So I am using the deck Guides of the Hidden Realms by Colette Baron Reed. And the card I pulled for the first one is Full Moon Eclipse, Removing Internal Obstacles, Confronting Self-Identity, Intensity. And if you are watching the video, this is the card. And let me just read the little message for you quickly. So the intense period of utter darkness during a full moon eclipse is a sign for you to release all that is no longer serving you. Your repressed wounds can sabotage you, eclipsing all the good you've worked for. Now is the time to face the darker side of things, where you are leaking your power by giving it away to other people and their drama. Could you have been engaging in blame, shame, or judgment of others or yourself? Emotions can get riled up at this time, but remember that an eclipse doesn't last. What obstacles do you perceive in your life right now? Let go of your attachments to a specific form of success. The universe has a much bigger, better plan. If your gaze is focused on the outer world, adjust your perception because everything is a reflection of your inner world. Trust that you are here in this intense moment only temporarily. Make good use of it, then let it go. You will be so glad that you did. Isn't that beautiful? And that's kind of, I was, as I'm reading, I'm like, that's kind of talking about what we're talking about. How your inner world, your inner thoughts is literally the creation of your outer world. So thank you, Spirit. That's so cool. And then card 2 was the sovereignty of magic, synchronicities, miracles, spiritual forces. So if you're watching, you can see that card come up. So the message here is an invisible power operates in every aspect of our lives. This truth is woven through the cosmos. Magic is the metaphysical realm, always sovereign to the material. When we remember our inherent connection to the divine and engage our intuition and our partnership with the universe, we awaken to the messages and miracles around us. Symbols and synchronicities serve as a reminder that the universe is always listening and engaging us. This is your sign, the answer you have been waiting for. The invisible world is creating necessary shifts so the outer world will reflect the intentions you've set in motion. Pay attention to those feelings of inexplicable connection and uncanny knowing. The music of destiny is calling your name, and surprising opportunities are aligning for your highest good, no matter the challenges. Woo! Woo! That sounds like fun. All right. Cool, 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 cool. So I hope those resonated with you. But back to the episode. So one of the things that came up this week that was really like this idea of having these maybe limiting beliefs or these old outdated storylines that you tell yourself, and realizing that you're not going to be able to get out of this loop of receiving or experiencing these storylines as long as you are continuing to reinforce them by stating them. So an example would be, man, like I never seem to get ahead with money. I just always feel like I'm struggling, and it just like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm just always struggling, paycheck to paycheck. And one of these things kind of came up to me. I was watching it on a reel, and it was like this lady doing this skit, and she's at a restaurant, and she states her order, and then the universe comes and like literally gives it what it is, and she's kind of like, why I don't want that, like, why do you keep bringing me this? And they're like, the universe is like, but that's exactly what you ordered. So like when you're stating things like, man, I'm always in lack, I'm always, paycheck to paycheck, the universe isn't taking the underlining of that being like a negative thing, or you kind of saying that as like a sarcastic thing. The universe is literally like, okay, yep, so always being short of money, okay, always paycheck to paycheck, check, doing their thing, and then they serve it up, and it really started to make sense to me, because like energy attracts like energy. And I love the example of, when you wake up in the morning and just say you are a grumpy bear. I think we've all had that. There's no damn reason why. You just wake up and you're just grouchy, and you're not wanting to start your day. You're not wanting to get out of bed, have a shower, go to work, all the things. And so you kind of get out of bed begrudgingly. Did I say that right? I could hear it in my head real well. And you instantly stub your toe, and you're like, gosh, dang it. Like, of course, like, this is just stupid. This is gonna be a stupid day. And then, you get into the shower, and maybe slip or drop your shampoo or your whatever, right? And it's just like the whole day, it just is crap. You're late for work because your coffee spilt on you. Your clients were grumpy, all of the things. And it just like the whole day is like a write-off. I think we've all had those days where we're like, this is just a write-off. Nothing is going right. And the funny thing about that is like if our mindset is convinced that that's what's going to happen, then that's what we're going to invite in and bring in. Our perception is completely aligned to pick up on all of the negative and ignore any of the positives. And so it just presents us with this reality, because also our minds are then creating our energy field, right? So if we are having negative, lower vibrating thoughts, and we're going to vibrate lower, and then vibration attracts like vibration, like energy, right? So you think of like a radio station, and if you are tuned into the lower frequency radio station, that's all you're going to hear. Where if you're tuned into the higher frequency radio station, then you're going to hear all of those things. So it's that complete concept of what you put out is what you're going to get back in. So every thought carries emotional energy. Repetitive thoughts create neural pathways and habitual emotional states. The mind constantly filters reality through belief systems, and what we focus on expands our awareness. So, the brain, I like this concept of like the confirmation bias, where the brain seeks evidence for what is already to be believed. Okay. So if you believe people are untrustworthy, you notice betrayal more often. If you believe opportunities exist for you, you become more open to possibility, become a magnet. So energy impacts, our posture, our tone of voice, our decision making, our confidence, our relationships. It completely affects every aspect of us. I remember working with a girl, and I remember she won some kind of contest, and I was just like, "Oh my God, like, you're so lucky. Like, that's amazing. Like, aren't you so excited?" And she was like, "Yeah, but I knew I was gonna win." And I was like, "What? How?" And she's like, "'Cause I always win. I've just got like this magic shoe horse." What? Shoe horse? What is that called? Like that, like, I can't even think. They're showing me the image. Maybe that's the right word. I don't think it is. But she's like, I've just always been lucky, and I've won so many things. And I didn't realize it obviously at the time, because I was like, damn it, like I was like her. I wish I was lucky like that. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, that makes complete sense. That, she absolutely believed that she would, and so she did. And because she had 100%, like, man, I've won so many times, like, of course I believe I'm gonna win. Where, someone like myself, where I can be more, not logical, but uh I don't know, I kind of that person that sits there and goes like, "Oh, 10,000 people? Yeah, the chances are low, but whatever, I'll just do it," type of thing. That's kind of putting it out to say like, "Yeah, your chances are low." And where she would go into it and be like, "Oh yeah, like I'm totally gonna win. The chances of me winning are high because I always win these things." So it really kind of makes me take a step back and evaluate, what I'm putting out there, to start changing those things. So one of the laws, like, we talk about the universal laws, so the law of resonance. So the idea that energy frequencies interact and attract similar frequencies. So we naturally align with environments, people, and experiences that mirror our internal state, right? So this is not blame for hardship or trauma. So it's not to sit there and say that, somebody went through a hardship or went through a trauma and they invited it in. It's not to say that. Difficult experiences are part of being human, and that is part of our human contracts that we created, our soul contracts that we created, for that bigger, purpose of learning lessons and evolving as a soul. So that's where that kind of comes in. It's not that that you're asking for it type of thing. Absolutely not. The principle is about really awareness, alignment, and personal responsibility moving forward. That is basically like personal responsibility is you being in control of your mindset, your thoughts, your actions, and that it's not happening to you, but it's happening for you. Is a strong concept to kind of sit with. So, examples is anxious energy attracting chaotic situations, scarcity mindset reinforcing lack, self-worth influencing relationship dynamics, confidence opening doors socially and professionally. So you can think of your energy like I said, like a radio station. Whether your station is consistently tuned into becomes the soundtrack of your experience, right? So do you want to be part of like the it's like showing me like going to the club and being part of the dance party, like the woo, or do you want to be part of that I've gone through a breakup and somber type of energy down here? Now both have its places. I definitely like my good crying soundtrack. So I'm not digging that thing. I'm not putting that down. But I will tell you, if I'm like in that mood or whatever, kind of like that reflective, and I put on that sad soundtrack, it's funny how I will dip lower into it and stay in it a lot longer because I've decided to be in that space, and then the music is like influencing it more. Whereas, when somebody, if they're like in a bad mood and then they go and put on like, a fun soundtrack, like, it's amazing how quickly your energy shifts and you just start to be like, I don't care. I love it. That's the song that came into my head. So just play around, be with me. So, a reflection to think about is, are your current thoughts aligned with the reality you desire to create? So just kind of sit with that. Are your current thoughts aligned with the reality you desire to create? And if it's not, where is it out of alignment? Where can you adjust your thoughts to bring in what you're wanting? It's some of the examples of giving the like self-worth influencing relationship dynamics. That's huge. That happens all the time. If you're feeling that you're not worthy, or that your confidence is low, and your partner is, I don't know, starts talking to somebody, a friend, and you think that person's very attractive and stuff, automatically it's going to make you feel insecure and all of that. Where if you were somebody who was really secure in themselves and knew, like you're a badass bitch, that you wouldn't even bat an eye, right? I know I've dealt with that in relationships my whole life, where I've had that, insecurity, and it has nothing to do with the person. It's everything to do with me. And, in this time in my life, post divorce, dating, in a relationship, though all of those came right back up, being in a relationship, of these insecurities, this feeling of I guess abandonment, it must be, where I have this program, um, where it's, the people pleasing, right? So like making people happy. And if they don't, then maybe they're not going to stay. Like be that performative, or, make sure that they're happy, because if they don't, then they're definitely not going to want to be with you, or stay, or be your friend, or all those things. And that's something that I've been recognizing and been working on for the last 5 years or whatever, when I really came to my awareness. And I've gotten really good with it, but going into a new relationship, that just brought a whole new can of worms up, and shone a light on this aspect that still needs work. And I am grateful for that, because unless something's shining and it's triggering you, you're not going to know that it's there. So, and like the scarcity mindset reinforcing lack. Everybody, we all, again, this can stem for sure from our upbringing and the storylines that we perceived and were told when we were younger within our family. I know within mine, there was a scarcity mindset, I realize. We were middle class, so it wasn't like we didn't have money. We did lots of things, but I do remember my parents always having that underlining, like, no, we can't do this because we don't have enough money, or no, you can't get the Nintendo. The computer's just fine. I was so mad at that. Right? Like Nintendo game set. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Super Mario. I go to my friends and I'd play it and I'd be like, why can't we get one? And I don't want to play on the computer. I don't want to play Pac-Man. No, man. But I never got it. I remember everybody going out and getting the sports jackets. It's like Star or something. I don't know, like all these sports jackets. And of course, I didn't want to be teased. I wanted one too. But my parents were like, no, that's too expensive. We can't afford that. And so they ended taking me somewhere to get like a knockoff brand. And it was a sports team that literally, I think, just got established, hadn't even really started playing yet. Now they're popular, the Raptors basketball. But back then it was like, nobody knew what they were, but I was like, okay, at least I have one, even if it wasn't name brand. And it's so funny because I look at my parents, and that was they needed that safety net, right? They have done well for themselves. So that decision to, it wasn't that they necessarily didn't have it, but their priorities were in saving, right? But it's funny because as a child, you are not sitting there going like, oh yeah, they're saving, blah, blah, blah. Like, I understand that. All I'm hearing is like, oh, okay, well, no, we can't afford that. And the conversations that you probably overhear from your parents, and then even their advice or anything coming forward, like it was very much the importance of getting that corporate job with the security of benefits, like how important that is, and investment plans, and all of that. And the idea of being an entrepreneur was like, oh no, 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 no. You want to be safe, and unless you have that corporate job, you're not safe. And so as I kind of have done so much reflecting over the last few years, that was something that kind of I realized, that I'm like, oh, wait a minute, starting my own like business, and having this idea of maybe eventually leaving my corporate job and going into my business full time. There always was this aspect of fear. And I realized that was really attached to that programming, and that I do have this scarcity mindset. that does kind of bring in this feeling of lack or survival mode, right? This survival. And so, it's those things that then being like, okay, okay, okay. Like now this is something that I'm going to really focus on is the stories that I'm telling myself. Um, and in trying to shift that perspective for myself to basically say to the universe, like, this is what I want. Like, I want to not feel this way. I want to invite in more and safety and whatever that is. So most thoughts are subconscious and repetitive, and many beliefs are inherited, right? So from childhood, family dynamics, society, past experiences, and even past lives. I have, as a intuitive reader, and an Akashic Records reader, I have viewed many past lives, that somebody has been in poverty, or if they have this kind of strong lack mentality or fear, in this lifetime, but hadn't really experienced it in this lifetime. I have seen it in past lives as like a repetitive thing, and it's kind of like a lesson to learn. So, and then also the opposite, where I've seen in the past life, that somebody was, very well off and maybe took advantage of that. Didn't and took it for granted and used it as power, and then in maybe this lifetime they're now having that karmic flip of, having the scarcity and having, to really work and to obtain money and safety that way. So some of the like limiting beliefs would be, I'm not good enough, success is hard, love always leaves, nothing ever works out for me. And this really does influence our relationships, our finances, our confidence, um, opportunities, and, just self sabotage. And you cannot create a new reality while unconsciously identifying with these old stories. And when we're saying things like as like a matter of fact, like love always leaves me. Again, we are speaking this out to the universe, and it's like, okay, yep, yep, yep. Love always leaves. And so we're just going to keep being presented with that opportunity that love always leaves. And I can hear some people saying, okay, yeah, like, oh, yeah, good, 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 Allison. Like, so what? You just say it, but you don't believe it? Because I've felt that too, where I will, say things, to try to shift my reality, but in my head, it's like I can hear this little echo going, like, yeah, right. And I'm like, shut up, you're ruining it for me. Just be quiet. But part of me kind of believes that as we're saying it, we may not believe it, but as we're saying it over and over and over, just like the universe takes your order verbatim, right? Not reading into the nuances of what you're kind of saying. The universe is going to start to pick up that order of, I attract abundance. I attract abundance. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. She attracts abundance, and they start sending it. And the thing is, once we start receiving it and having it and being conscious and aware that it's coming in, because many times so many people will be like, they'll forget to recognize, or maybe you look back 6 months ago and be like, wait a minute, it might have been a slow drip, but it was a drip, and like, whoa, because you got to recognize it. And once you kind of start to have that, you'll start to believe it more, like truly believe it more. Just like my coworker who said, I'm just lucky, I always win things. It's because she has won so many things that she has that proof, that her mind completely believes it. So, how to get there. So it's really being observant of the reoccurring thoughts, that you have, and with no judgment. So don't like have a thought and be like, oh gosh, dang it, Allison. Like, why are you doing that? You idiot. I like that word. It's kind of funny. It makes me laugh, but don't say that to yourself. Notice emotional triggers and patterns. So awareness is the first step, and it is key, and it is huge. It is huge. The more aware you are of um, yourself, your energy, your mind, your thoughts, woof, you're able to shift things a lot faster. And then start to shift from nothing works for me to I am learning to create new outcomes, right? So nothing works for me is just matter of fact. Like that's a strong statement. Nothing ever works for me. Okay, then it never ever will. To I am learning to create new outcomes. Or this always happens to me. Or I'm always getting let down. To I wonder what I'm supposed to learn in this moment. Right. So like, yes, there was still something that was disappointing, but when you can change your mindset to be like, huh, interesting. Okay, like I wonder what I'm supposed to learn in this moment. What is the universe trying to teach me? A good example of that is my car. I had brought it into the dealer and whoa, the bill that they said, or like they did their little review, and it was like fuck me, it was like 10 to 16,000, could have been 10 to 16,000 to fix. Not an old car. It was 2019, but catastrophic, issues. Like I was like, what do you do with this? And, again, that kind of played into that scarcity, that scarcity. Why do I scarcity? You know what I mean? And so it definitely played into that because I was like, I don't just have $10,000 to put into a stupid vehicle. But I also knew I had no choice. It's either that or I'm selling it for scrap metal, and it's a great car. And so whatever, this took a while, but I took it, got it fixed somewhere else. Definitely less money, 4,500 instead of 10,000. Cool. Done. I take it home. The next day it doesn't start. And I'm like, are you serious right now? And I'm like, what the hell? Like, of course you're not starting, because like you're just giving me problems left, right, and center. So off I go, and I have a dead battery. Like, $500 later, replace the battery, and I'm like, okay, can we be done? Like, can we be done with the expenses? And then I think 2 weeks later, I have a flat tire. And I was like, oh my gosh, this damn car is cursed. Why is this happening to me? I completely went through that whole phase. And then as I'm sitting there waiting for it to be fixed, I was like, that's when I was able to calm down and go, okay, what is spirit trying to teach me right now? Because that these things don't just pop up just to be like, ha, gotcha. Gonna get you again. And they're just laughing up there, being like, look at her. No, I know that, this is 3 times within, such a short period of time that I had to stop and be like, what do I need to learn from this? Am I bringing this in? I think part of it was my mindset. My mindset of, when I got it fixed, definitely there was the thought of like, oh my God, okay, like it's fixed. I'm not going to have to put any more work into it because I don't have the money. And I can't afford that. And I definitely was in that headspace because I was really worried and stressing about money. And so it kind of was like I was putting it out there to the universe that I expected it to happen. And, and the other aspect, so it was really asking me to look at my mindset for that, and just to kind of surrender into it, and to trust that I will always be taken care of. And that was, and asking for help, because I know for myself that was something that was hard for me, is to ask for help. So right, there's always these opportunities for us to really sit there and reflect on what is being given to us, what lessons, because everything is a lesson, everything is an opportunity, especially if it's repeating itself. So, in those moments, it's like, start to, when you can like regulate your emotions. So obviously when I was sitting for an hour waiting for my tires, like I was calmed down by that time, and all I had was my thoughts. So, really kind of like grounding and regulating your nervous system, regulating your emotions. You can then start to get some clarity on what is happening, and be able to kind of move from that aspect, and be able to shift your mindset from that aspect. Another another way to kind of like, you know, change this around, or look at a situation that you want to shift, and you can call that manifesting. Mentally rehearse aligned experiences. So just in your mind, like, mentally imagining it happening. Embody the feeling before external evidence appears. Like, what would that feel like? I had, when I was in between my divorce and finding my new partner, I took about 2 years of solitude to do my own healing and stuff. And I remember there was a new moon or a full moon. I don't remember what it was, but it was like, the astrologers were all like, "Oh my God, you need to write down what you want and manifest." And I got my notepad and I went out on my deck, and I just was like, okay, I'm going to write a dear diary of meeting somebody of my dreams. And again, because I'm very logical, I can get very hung up on like, okay, like, don't be crazy now. Like, let's be realistic. But I really forced myself to let go of that and be like, no, like, let's just write as if you have found that person and what it feels like. And so I just came from from my heart. And I just was writing as if I had found who I wanted, and I really let myself sit into what that felt like, every aspect of it. And then I did the ceremonial thing. What did I do? I thought there was like, no, maybe that's the burning. Burning is getting rid of, and then writing. So maybe I got rid of something, and then I wrote that. And really, what was it? Less than 6 months later, I'm in this new relationship. And I remember going back and reading that Dear Diary, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I couldn't believe how many things of that aligned with this partner. Now, I'm not saying I just manifested the perfect partner and like all things, because there's so many layers to that, right? To sit there and be like, yeah, Prince Charming, who can do no wrong, and you have no. The things that I had asked for and brought in, they absolutely are there. And it was just so amazing. But of course, it brings other things too, which is all for learning and growing. But it was kind of the first time I allowed myself to really like let go and just dream and feel it, what it would feel like. And I think I remember like reading it. Every so often I would read it and just feel that feeling of what it feels like to have that person prior to us connecting. So it was so cool. Um, and then the other part is having gratitude. So really having gratitude for the things that you do have. Um, Gratitude shifts perception and energetic focus so fast. Gratitude raises your frequency the fastest. So what we appreciate expands and comes to us more. And so really kind of paying attention to that, like in this world that we live in right now, where there's a lot of darkness and heaviness and stress and worry, and it's coming at us from all aspects, and people are energetically picking up on that, and they're frustrated and they're angry, and it's just like this whole like recipe to keep us in this lower frequency. But we have a choice to either remain in that or to choose to step out of that and find the beauty and the gratitude in this everything. And there's something always to be grateful for. And I've always said that, it can be as small as, going to your favorite coffee shop and they made your coffee or your tea perfect. And that's what I'm grateful for today, right? Like, if that's all you can find, then that's all you can find, but it's there, and it's the small little moments. A great practice is before going to bed, while you're laying in bed, to list 3 things that you were grateful for in that day. I was doing that for the longest time. I'm just thinking right now that maybe I need to pick that back up, but it was like every night, and it would force me to reflect on my day and reflect on only the good things. And certainly there was some days that I struggled to get 3. And then other days I was like, how do I only pick 3? But it, changed that mindset, that perception, to start focusing on those positive things. I think a lot of us can go to bed worried, stressing, thinking of maybe the things that went wrong in the day. And so this kind of really changes that energy. And if you're going to bed in that kind of higher frequency, that frequency of gratitude, like then you're the whole night in that energy, and you're waking up in a much better space. So really try doing that. You do not have to force or chase what is aligned for you. Often the shift begins internally before it materializes externally. And what is meant for you will never miss you. It won't. That's something I really hold on to. Um, if I'm struggling with things, if I maybe a relationship ended, and you're like, oh my God, like I don't know, like if this is what's supposed to happen, and that gives me peace to be like, if it is meant to be, it will find its way back to me. It absolutely will. So I don't need to worry about that. I need to just let it unfold the way it needs to unfold. Um, and so in that sense, that's like this aspect of the balance between setting an intention and surrendering to it. Um, Obsessive attachment often signals fear and scarcity. Scarcity, yeah. And trust allows flow. So trusting in it. It's a great example, again, when I wrote that Dear Diary, of a person to bring into my life. At the time, I wasn't looking for a relationship. So it wasn't like I had much of an attachment to it. But I knew that I was wanting to have a relationship at some point. And I think that was like the perfect thing, that it was kind of like, I really didn't care to have anybody at that point, but it allowed me to just kind of like, throw this stuff out. And then I just like let it go, because I just wasn't in that mindset. And I shit you not, the moment that I just, what am I trying to say? The moment I was ready to get into a relationship, Within 24 hours, it presented itself. I am not shitting you. It's crazy. Um, it was like, I had, and I'm not saying that just because I wrote this down and like, manifested it or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it is kind of like I don't believe in coincidence anymore. I that now that I know how energy works and spirit works and bringing things into us, and the fact that I had written that out, put that out there as if it had already happened. I had felt it. I knew what it felt like. It was exciting, and then I just kind of like let it go. And then naturally, when all of a sudden I was like, you know what, I'm ready. I'm gonna go on a dating site. Like I just boom, and then 24 hours later the person I'm with right now, and been with right now for over a year and a half, presented themselves to me. And so it's just, yeah, it's just amazing how it's kind of like I just like let it go and it came to me. I didn't force it. So, manifestation is not controlling every outcome. It's becoming energetically available for aligned experiences. So that moment I energetically opened up to a partner, then it's like, okay, here we go. We've been waiting for those doors to open. So really like that divine timing, following your intuition, that night before it happened, like I hadn't even been really thinking much about signing up for a dating site. And I just like, boom, like intuitively it came in like, you're going to sign up. And I was like, I don't even know how to sign up. And I just like went on. I think I totally screwed it up and didn't put pictures, or I don't even know. Like I screwed it. I was not prepared because it wasn't in my mind. But the intuition came in and I followed it. And then just staying open to unexpected pathways. And that's the funny thing. Yes, I went online and I opened up this dating profile, and that's not how I met my person. That person was already in my life as a friend. But I didn't see that person that way. And that's what was crazy is like, but because I took those actions, right? I was letting the universe know I am ready. I am open for business. And then it was like, here, we've been waiting. And they brought them in. So, it's just amazing how the universe works in their amazing, amazing ways. So, I think for yourself, whatever you are moving through, at this moment, or anything that you feel like, a repeating pattern, whether that's in relationships, whether that's money, whether that's your job, if there's something that you're like, my gosh, like I just feel like this just keeps happening, take a moment and just start to really pause and reflect on what is your thoughts around this? What is your thoughts, your feelings? What do you tell yourself around this? And, recognize where you might be calling this in unintentionally, and start to be aware, and yeah, start to be aware and just very cognitive of changing what you are saying to believe. And maybe start with one thing, because you're not going to pause every time you think something or talk something out loud or in a conversation, because a lot of this is deeply rooted into our psyche. So it's so natural we don't even notice it's coming out in different ways. So if you can focus just on one area, it'll be a lot easier for you to pick up on those cues of like, oh my God, I just did it again. Like, there it was. So, your thoughts matter, your inner dialogue matters, the energy you consistently embody influences your reality, right? So, if you work with the public and you constantly seem to have angry customers, and then you go off and you vent to your partner and your coworker and your friend about that, and you're staying in that energy and then all of a sudden the next day comes and it's the same energy, and it's like, okay, so maybe let's look at moving out of that frequency and trying something different that day. going into it and being like, you know what? Like, I'm just not going to let anybody get to me. I'm not going to let anybody get to me. And I'm just going to like let it roll off and be like, you do you and I do me. And it's amazing how your internal peace starts to change quite drastically, actually. So, just kind of sit with like, what reality are your thoughts currently reinforcing? What would shift if you began shifting or speaking to yourself as someone worthy, capable, and aligned? How would you speak to a friend, right? How would you speak to a child? Like if a child was like, oh, like this, speak to yourself that way. And what energy are you bringing into the spaces that you enter? So what are you embodying when you enter? Are you entering with a thundercloud above your head, or are you entering with sunshine? And it's pretty amazing when you enter with sunshine, how magnetic you become, and how much people are drawn to you because your energy is just radiating. So, you know, your life is not shaped only by what happens to you, but it's shaped by the meaning, the energy, and the belief you continuously give to your experiences. So, yeah, I think, this is just a good reminder. So it might be something that you are a new concept, or it might be a nice refresher reminder to just kind of pay attention, because like energy attracts like energy. So if you want that, magnetic, funny, happy person that makes you feel all good and stuff, you gotta project that yourself, because that's what you're going to bring in. So I hope that this episode was helpful for you, and I am always here to chat. And so, I love comments. If people write comments, I am always looking and commenting. And if you like this, then absolutely, I'm trying to, I'm building this up again, because having the Soul Star podcast for 5 years, and now this one. So now I'm really trying to put my energy into this and build this up. And so yeah, if you like, share, all those fun things. But I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.